What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're covering a leak that we have to kind of say that's rumor at this point since it's not officially confirmed, but there was a major Capcom ransomware leak that just revealed a bunch of stuff that's going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch, to current gen, next generation, or next generation is current generation, and last generation, Resident Evil stuff, Monster Hunter stuff, Devil May Cry, new online shooters, new IPs, big stuff for the Switch. I mean, there is a lot of stuff to cover here, guys. So if you don't want to know about it, or if you think that you shouldn't know about it, then you can just click off the video right now at this point. But I will not be leaving a link to the actual pictures of what was being shown or to where it was. I will be leaving a link in the description to the Reset Era thread where all of this was listed, because there is an official staff communication where they talk about personal information, linking source codes and stuff like that. So I don't want to get mixed up in any of that. So I will link you to the just original spot there, and there will not be any actual pictures or anything taken from there, just so we can be clear on this and nothing comes back to me at this point. So here's what we're going to start off with, guys. There's a bunch of bullet points. We're going to go down each one, and we're going to talk about what I think is the most exciting thing out there, or things out there, because there's a lot of stuff here. So Resident Evil Village. The details, it's going to be current gen, which we've heard about before. It's been rumored. Current gen release. It's an April launch with a demo before release. Very similar to what they did with Resident Evil 7, so that makes sense. A new multiplayer Resident Evil, referred to internally as Project Highway / Village Online. It's a battle royale of some sort. Capcom has been doing some online multiplayer stuff. We saw with Resident Evil 3, different types of things, but it seems like they want to get their hand into the battle royale cake and microtransactions probably and stuff like that. So I would not be surprised if this was the case. Next up, new Ace Attorney collection for the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. Ace Attorney 1 through 3 and DGS 1 and 2, which would be absolutely amazing. And guys, that's definitely happening from what I've seen. New Switch exclusive IP. This is probably something that we're going to talk a little bit more once we get through this. It's under the codename of Guillotine, so gonna have to wait and see what that ends up being, but it's for the Switch exclusive IP. Monster Hunter Rise will be coming to PC, and it's releasing in October of 2021, maybe. That's around the time that they're guesstimating that they could have it done. Demos for the Switch in January and March, so maybe two different demos. One of them carries over to the main game. They've done this before with Capcom and Monster Hunter, and even on the Switch with Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate and all that. So yeah, I can see something like that happening. Monster Hunter Stories 2 on PC, and it's targeting a June 2021 Switch and PC release. And we already know that Monster Hunter Stories is coming to Nintendo Switch, and yes, it was slated for a summer type of release, and I would not be shocked if it was on PC as well, in order to, of course, fortify that development, get extra money. I mean, releasing on PC, it's always a good idea to release on PC as a third-party developer, just because there's just so many PCs out there and Steam is so popular. So that makes sense as well. Along with Monster Hunter Rise, that also makes sense too. Resident Evil 4 VR, which would be another port of Resident Evil 4, which it's Capcom. They've ported it over to everything, so I would not be surprised once again. A new shooter multiplayer game titled Shield, geared towards streamers. So this is like that Hyper Escape or whatever it was from Ubisoft. Maybe this is their take on it, on targeting towards streamers. I always think that's corny when people do that, but hey, whatever. They can do what they want to do. If this turns out to be real with this one here, or if it doesn't get canceled or whatever. Source code for DMC2 and Umbrella Chronicles. So it's just source code. So for the people who look at that, there's that out there. And now here's some financial stuff that's going on. This is very interesting. I find this to be very interesting. So Stadia, Google Stadia, paid Capcom $10 million to put Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8 on the platform. So they have to pay them to put the cloud versions on there. And Sony paid $5 million for VR/timed DLC/demo exclusivity, and I'm guessing they're talking about Resident Evil 7, or maybe they're even going to talk about maybe Resident Evil 8, but I know that Sony did have exclusivity with Resident Evil 7. There was VR for Resident Evil 7. There was the demo stuff that they had. The DLC was timed, so that's what I'm guessing, but maybe that could also make a jump to Resident Evil 8 as well. More details will be revealed later if it's not already there. If I'm wrong on that, or if they've already announced that, you guys, of course, let me know in the chat. So this, like all of this stuff that's happening here, it kind of gives you what Capcom's strategy is, right? So they really fortified and worked hard on their main IPs, right? You have Devil May Cry, you have Resident Evil, you have Monster Hunter, you know, but Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, those are the two that they're going hard on with all this different stuff here, right? But it's pretty cool to see some of these other things as well, right? Ace Attorney, the collections coming over. That would be great on Switch for people to be able to play all those games, you know, and DGS 1 and 2. I know people have been waiting for that for a long time, right? Capcom, slow on the trigger with that one. So that would be dope as well. And I think Ace Attorney fans would be very pleased if that came into fruition, which it really does look like it's actually real, guys. Based on what I've seen out there, you guys can look it up. Now, next up is the Switch exclusive IP under the name Guillotine. So Capcom got a lot of flack from Nintendo Switch fans out there. Why aren't they making new games for us? Why isn't there anything? People were complaining as early as 2017 when the Switch launched that there should be all these games. Capcom knows what they're doing here. They waited for that install base, and I can see all of these games, if this Guillotine ends up being something good from Capcom, making unique experiences for the Switch audience, like they did with the Wii, with the Nintendo audience, like they did with their, and even like what they did with the GameCube with some of the, you know, Capcom 5 and stuff like that. Ended up being multi-plat for some of those, but you guys get it, right? They always create these unique experiences for Wii, GameCube, Nintendo platforms. Wii U, they kind of just said that was not successful, so we don't got anything. But I like that about Capcom, and I think that this new IP, whatever ends up being, you know, that'd be dope. It'd be dope to get something new from them, right? We have an exclusive slash PC too, but console exclusive game, but built for the Switch, right? It's going to be built for Switch in terms of making sure it runs good on there and it plays good on there, and it's not just a shoddy port of a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One games with Monster Hunter World or something, right? So I'm more of a fan of that. Of course, Monster Hunter Stories 2 coming to PC as well. I mean, this is a turn-based RPG based in the Monster Hunter universe, so I mean, that makes sense to me too. Like, Capcom's gonna make more money on it. Nintendo still has their exclusivity with console, but even if it came over to other ones, I personally don't care about that. I just care about getting great games for Switch owners to play. As long as they look and they play great and they're not bad ports or bad versions of the game, then I'm happy with that. Based on what we've seen from Monster Hunter Rise, it looks amazing. Based on what we've seen from Monster Hunter Stories 2, it looks really good. And the first game is really good and optimized for the 3DS. One of the best looking games on the Nintendo 3DS, to be honest here. So interesting with this other stuff as well, with the business things with Stadia and all that. Stadia is trying so hard, man, but they're just failing at every single like step of the way. I don't see Stadia lasting too much longer, especially now with the new systems coming out to much fanfare and people buying games on there. Look at the Amazon sales, Nintendo's still killing it, you know, other games are being sold, PlayStation, Xbox. Stadia is just, it's just not there. But hey, if they want to pay $10 million or put millions for stuff on their dead platform, you know Capcom's gonna take that money. You know, Capcom will sacrifice their own franchises for money when it comes to, like, let's say Street Fighter, right? Street Fighter on the PlayStation 4 being exclusive only on there. Street Fighter 4 sold so much on so many systems, but they just said, oh no, we'll take that. So, I mean, that's classic Capcom, but it's all good. It's a business at the end of the day, right? So, very interesting stuff across the board here when it comes to all these different things. I think Capcom has a big 2021 planned when it comes to announcements and when it comes to new games and different types of ideas and what they're going to be doing with their big hitters. I mean, we did know that Monster Hunter World is the best-selling Capcom game of all time, and they're looking forward to big sales for Monster Hunter Rise as well. And Resident Evil is always a big selling franchise. They've been doing great, selling multi-million copies of Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 3 Remake. So I think Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village is going to be just as explosive in sales. Resident Evil 3 didn't do quite as good as the previous 2 Resident Evil games that were released, the major ones, so I can see them returning back to form with Resident Evil 8 just because of the intrigue. It's Resident Evil, right? So, and it's back to the first person, right? We had 2 third-person ones in a row, back to the first person, kind of the horror, super horror roots when it comes to Resident Evil 8, so I can see that doing very well too. So all this stuff sounds great. Capcom looks like they're going to have some big stuff to announce, so maybe the Game Awards we could see something or some of this stuff kind of being shown off there a little bit as well. So what are you guys' thoughts on all of this? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you for the next one. Peace.